How's it, EasyEquities community, and welcome to this webinar. It's again my great privilege to be chatting to you guys, and today we're joined by Warren Wheatley from AltVest, and we're going to be learning more about this exciting opportunity and what it means for EasyEquities investors. Yeah, to kick it off, Warren, you're one of the most well-known, successful businessman in South Africa, and inspiration to many. And so we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. And I know, despite your investments and fingers in many exciting pies like Arena Publishing and Capitec and more, AltVest has a special place in your heart. Maybe you can tell us why.
Thanks. Thanks, Carl, and thanks to the EasyEquities team and the EasyEquities community. First of all, we're thrilled to be here. And thank you for an opportunity to talk about AltVest and what we're doing. AltVest has been a dream of mine for many, many years. And the idea, quite simply, was to help two sets of people. Those two sets of people are, in the first instance, investors who are often excluded from many, many exciting opportunities. And I got a real taste of that when I worked in a family office at one of the big banks. And you quickly understand that to get invited into this closed capital circle, you either need to be rich and networked, and oftentimes both. And I've always wanted to make the same investment opportunities that were available to the ultra wealthy available to all. From that perspective, I think we share the same vision with EasyEquities. I remember the first time I tried to buy shares, you could only buy them in lots of 100. And the minimum brokerage costs made it such that I would need to earn 200% before the unit cost even broke even. And so the alignment in values and our vision statements and mission is very aligned with that of EasyEquities. A lot of people misunderstood our offering in the beginning, where they thought we wanted to take on EasyEquities. In fact, the opposite is true. We hope to complement EasyEquities by bringing our opportunities to your community, giving them more exposure to more investments. And so we want to be a part of the EasyEquities solution and not in any way attempt to disrupt what you guys are doing.
Or maybe just to interrupt you there on that point. There's often accusations when companies list in their IPOs, and there have been some recent writings about IPOs that are happening this year, and the companies get accused of excluding retail investors, making that IPO really available only to a select handful of large institutions. Now, AltVest have spent a lot of money with a fantastic advertising campaign. I mean, you've been all over. You are all over. You're taking the time to talk to the Easy community. You're heavily engaging with your own community and ours. So you can't be accused of not exposing this opportunity to retail investors. And I suppose you've partly answered that, but why isn't it important to you? I mean, are you not interested in institutional investors, or what is your thinking around that?
I absolutely am, but the problem is more insidious and pervasive than that. Whenever a company seeks to do an IPO, one of the biggest risks they face is the ability to raise the minimum amounts of capital as stipulated by that exchange. Now, the easy way to fix that is to call close friends and family to ensure you get it up. And in an IPO context, that list of close friends and family, from a broker's perspective, is their Rolodex of high net worth individuals and institutions. So any investment bank would make a call and make 15 or 20 phone calls and get the IPO completely underwritten, and then the job's done. All the risk is hedged away for the capital issuer. That then means that there's no shares left for the ordinary South Africans. or ordinary investors. We've opted for the exact reverse of that. I am willing to take the risk so that normal South Africans and normal investors get to participate first, and whatever's left over, we absolutely hope that the institutional markets will support us and come in and get some. But that was very important to me. It's a very expensive and risky exercise. And it is a risk that most IPOs don't take, but one that I had to take because it's in line with our ethos. I can't, on the one hand, talk about how important crowdfunding is and how important access and democratization is, but then just, have a few rich family offices take up all the shares. Having said that, they are also investors. They are welcome, and we want this opportunity available to all.
Warren, I just want to underscore that point because I think it's a fantastic endorsement of the EasyEquities community and a great privilege for us to be involved in this. Because what you're saying, the IPO is exclusively available on EasyEquities until the listing. And so we also have a responsibility, I think, as retail investors to thoroughly do our research, explore your opportunities, and come to the party. But thank you for taking that risk and punt. And I hope that many more companies are as brave as AltVest. Although, biased as I am with retail investors in the EasyEquities community, I hope we prove that it's not so brave, that it's a no-brainer, that our community are going to be accessing this. But yeah, it's an important point that you've taken that risk, and thank you very much.
Cool. Right. AltVest's mission, more broadly than, just to finish the point, the second group of people that we're trying to help are SMEs. Now, I think SMEs are the lifeblood of our economy. They're the growth engine, and they are what saves the economy and fixes our unemployment issue. And to that end, we use our platform to crowdfund capital for them. That crowdfunding is either by way of debt or equity. And that's the other. So quite simply, what we try and do in our simplest form, we allow SMEs to raise the capital they need from the customers that they serve. And we hope that they use that capital to grow the economy, to grow their business, and to grow employment, and to hire people or not have to fire people and retrench people. And that quite simply is what AltVest is trying to do. And bring in, we use the phrase connecting ideas to capital. And EasyEquities, of course, is the perfect partner for that, given the large reach you have into capital markets, and in particular retail capital markets. So that's what we're trying to do, and it's one of the reasons, one of the primary reasons we've made the move to the JSE.
Great, thanks, Ron. So let's talk a little bit about the practicalities. So you are listing on the JSE, and give us the date in October that's happening.
So the process is as follows. The IPO starts on Friday, the 13th. Now,
and that means for our EasyEquities, sorry to interrupt you again, for our EasyEquities community, from 7 o'clock on Friday morning, under new listings, which is the top left nav, you can go to new listings. You will see the details of the IPO there.
All right. Now, an IPO means it's an initial public offering. And what we are offering is an opportunity to buy new shares in AltVest and all our hybrid instruments. That window of opportunity lasts for 2 weeks, and we close off the order book on the 1st of October. So quite simply, what you're going to need to do, first and foremost, you need to read and research. And our website is filled with information, our annual reports, our business plans. But the most important document to read is the prospectus. The prospectus gets approved by the JSE to make sure that the content is accurate, reliable, and valid. They don't also endorse whether, the issuing of the prospectus doesn't mean that they endorse the actual investment. That's quite important. And it's also registered by the CIPC, which is a critical component of asking the public to invest in an instrument. So they've made sure that we've done all the governance, our regulatory processes are in place, and everything else. We do ask you to then tell us either the amount of cash you'd like to spend and in which instruments you want to spend it, and that then gets booked for you. It won't be shown in your EasyEquities account until the actual listing, which happens on the 14th. So please don't get nervous. The cash will be allocated. It's like a pre-order on Shenu or Takealot, whatever the case is. So your shares will be held on your behalf. The cash will be ring-fenced, and on listing day, hopefully at 9 o'clock when the market opens, that's the 14th of October, those shares will then be allocated to your account, and you will be able to trade them almost immediately.
Yeah,
right,
so
EasyEquities,
yeah, no, that's perfect, Warren. In the EasyEquities community, it's very similar to the previous new listings that we've had on the platform. All the information is there. As we said, it'll go live Friday morning, and you can check it out. And Warren and I are going to talk a little bit about those opportunities now to start giving investors a bit more information. And to repeat what Warren said, check out AltVest's website. Social media is alive with a whole bunch of information. Yeah, there's lots of good content to help you decide what you should potentially invest in. And like all things in EasyEquities, there's no minimums, no maximums. So it's very straightforward to take part. So Warren, let's talk a little bit about the particular opportunities that are available. And I'm quite keen for you to go through each one of them. I've got a couple of questions around each one of them. And you can pick which one you want to start with.
All right. I'll start with the holding company, AltVest Capital. And I've spent some time talking about what our ethos is and what our mission is. So quite simply, an investment into AltVest Capital is going to entitle you to a small percentage in each of the underlying investments in the first instance. So you get a little exposure to each of the various underlying opportunities. And at the moment, there are 3 of those currently. And how AltVest Capital makes money is we charge the various underlying entities capital raising fees. There are advisory fees on an ongoing basis. And we also manage various portfolios that include these assets. So we've got 3 primary revenue streams: asset management, capital raising, and advisory fees. We've also introduced a range of financial services products that we make available to the customers we serve. So, for example, if an SME that we are raising capital for doesn't have a medical aid scheme for their staff, we are able to consult to them and provide that in service to them. For example, if we give debt to an SME, we are similarly able to provide that the entrepreneurs are adequately covered from a key man insurance perspective, or buy and sell perspective, or disability insurance, whatever the case may be. And so really, it's advisory services to SMEs, it's debt and equity raising for SMEs, and then asset management services for the public who invest in those. So that's AltVest Capital. I'll pause for a second if there are any questions around AltVest Capital.
No, I think that's very clear, and you've spent a bit of time, and I'm keen to chat about some of those underlyings. But simplistically, people can only, if they choose to do so, subscribe to AltVest Capital, and they will get exposure to a number of other entities as well.
Yes, every one of the underlying. So let's talk about the underlying. The They are classified as a hybrid instrument. And a hybrid instrument means, from a JSE perspective, that they exhibit characteristics of debt and equity instruments. Ours lean very, very deeply into the equity side of that duality. And what you're going to get effectively is the same equity returns that AltVest and other shareholders in those businesses enjoy. Right. So to give you an example, our first asset was Manu Lodge. Manu Lodge is best experience by staying there for about 10 days and not a day shorter. It's on the banks of the Sabi River, overlooking the Kruger Park. It's in an estate called Elephant Point. Elephant Point has been voted as one of the top 10 wildlife estates in Africa, not South Africa, Africa. And you can sit on your balcony enjoying the poison of your choice, whether that's coffee at 5 o'clock in the morning or a margarita for sundowners or a glass of wine at the fire. And literally the top 5 will walk past your balcony. Now, this lodge is rented out to tourists and can be booked at any point in time if there is availability. Our occupancy is well in excess of 80%, which is very high. And that's added, what's added to that is that there are direct flights to the Kruger Park now from Germany. There are a number of airlines who have created direct flights to either Kruger International or Skukuza Airport. So tourism in that particular area is booming, and our lodge is in high demand, particularly from international tourists. The park itself, and why we chose this particular investment, is owned almost exclusively by international billionaires, right? And so it was a point that I needed to make to myself and to South Africans that ordinary South Africans could invest in an asset like this and enjoy the kind of returns that are associated with those kinds of assets. This is a property that grows in excess of 20% per annum. Its occupancy is in excess of 80%. It's in a beautiful part of the country and in high demand.
And Warren, maybe talk about the valuation. I mean, have you seen growth just in the valuation of this investment?
Well, this particular asset, when we first bought into it, less than 18 months ago, we paid at a valuation of 30 million. We've just concluded a sale at the beginning of this year at a valuation of 46 million. So that's incredible growth. Now, ordinary South Africans can obviously not afford to buy property worth 46 million. Most South Africans can't even afford to rent the place out. We fractionalize that in the same way that EasyEquities do, so that people could invest in increments that they could afford. The beauty of our structure is that, and why we go through all the trouble of listing these instruments, is that if you do get into financial trouble and you need to sell the investment, theoretically, there's an active market where you can sell those shares and no one will take advantage of you. Often with these types of schemes, someone would take it off you, but would offer you 30, 40 cents in the rand. Yeah, you get to do a sale with a willing buyer or willing seller, and you can buy those out. So those shares are listing at 180 per share. There are 3 million of them available. And for every 350,000 you spend, you will get 1 free night for the rest of your life, or for as long as you hold the asset. So if you spend R1 million, you'll get 3 nights per year to stay there for the rest of your life. The present value of that benefit in itself is over R500,000. And so that's quite an exciting opportunity. For those who can't spend those amounts of money, you enjoy all the other benefits of ownership, and can trade in and out of the asset. One of my proudest moments was when two car guards in our office park bought, and their eyes lit up for the first time, and they could show their friends and family that they were co-owners of this magnificent lodge on the Sabi River. And
alongside many international billionaires. It's a fantastic story.
Yeah, and that's that.
Warren, before you carry on to the rest, I mean, so what is the intention with this? To hold this asset and pay out dividends? I mean, with the occupancy that's doing so well, you're not planning to necessarily sell this anytime soon?
Well, one of the big issues is that I've taken my wife there, and so she may stop me from selling it at any point in time. But that's absolutely the idea, that we would sell it after we've experienced enough growth to return to our shareholders, and particularly those pioneering brave souls who came in right at the start.
Cool.
In the meantime, we don't expect it to be a high dividend yielding. It's not a Holiday Inn, so occupancy is managed not to create a cash yield, but to make sure that the operations are break even. And we expect that for this particular asset to be a capital play or capital appreciation play with a cash yield of between 2% and 5% going forward.
So, and a lot of this information is in the prospectus, also on AltVest website. And Warren, just to clarify with the EasyEquities community, they can choose to, for example, only invest in this opportunity.
Correct.
During the IPO period.
Each of the instruments, we would like obviously people to take an investment in a little bit in each of the 4 instruments, but the proportions are up to you, and whether you identify with one of them in particular, you could do those. So there's no compulsion or expectation to do all 4. Each one is divisible, and you could have them separately or all together. At some point, we'll be bringing them to the market in the form of a bundle, and sorry, I let that one out the bag, but pretty soon there'll be bundles available where you buy them in proportion. The next one is...
It's a good thing to let out the bag, Warren, so we won't be upset.
But please don't let that stop you. Don't wait for the bundles. Get them now. Get them on Friday before they sell out. Our next story is equally compelling. Bambanani Family Restaurant is an institution in Melville. I'm sure most of the EasyEquities community, given how young they are, grew up there, or had a meal there, or spent some time there in their childhood. It's been around for 15 years, and it's a woman-owned and run business, and has been for the last 15 years. The difficulty was that there aren't any institutions in the country that are supportive of restaurants, except at almost predatory rates. And so Karen, who owns Bambanani, was seeking to do a capital raise on her own, to raise capital for the expansion of the concept. Now, the concept is quite simply, it's a haven for families. And it's different to their competitors in that kids aren't thrown into a cage where you have to fight bigger kids and viruses and bacteria. You actually learn to play instruments, you can paint, you can make pizzas, you can build Lego. We've got a very high ratio of child minders to children. So there's personal care that doesn't stop the scrapes and scabs, but it severely reduces them. So the kids are looked after. Mom can have a glass of wine. After the birth of our child, Bambanani was the first place Tatum and I had a meal at the same time, where we could actually talk to each other because Christian was occupied. Karen wanted to take this concept across the country, and in fact has ambitions to do it across the world. but couldn't raise capital. And we use the AltVest mechanism to take this, in the first instance, to an existing community. And when I say community, customers, people who had grown up there, people in the community in Melville. And almost 80% of the capital we raised was from her customers. And that proved our ethos that businesses don't need to beg banks for capital. They could take and raise capital by crowdfunding from the communities that love and adore them and that have kept them afloat financially for 15 years. We found that the same people wanted to support them. So we raised capital. We used the capital to do two cool things. One is to expand to Bedford View. And I'm quite pleased to say that Bedford View is a runaway success. It's impossible to get a book in there. And has just grown tremendously. It's only been launched 6 weeks ago, and all signs of a successful restaurant. We plan to take it across the country. Our next stop is probably, sure, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say, but probably Cape Town.
Probably not, but you will say it anyway. So.
And what's super cool about this is that our position in Melville is next to the old Melville Bioscope. We've bought that and are renovating it, and we'll be using some of the proceeds of this capital raise to build a fully fledged theater that will serve as a theater and supper club. We'll host children productions, we'll do plays, we'll do live music, we'll do jazz, hip hop, poetry, all those sorts of things. And you're going to be able to have dinner either before or after the show. And we're going to re-bring drama and excitement back to Johannesburg in a safe, cool environment. So Bambanani is an excellent story. We're looking for partners for the theater if anyone's listening. It's going to be beautiful, red velvet curtains, plush seats, an awesome concession stand, great dinner and drinks next door. And it's also going to serve as a bastion for underprivileged communities who don't have access to theaters and that sort of stuff. So all the surrounding communities are going to have access to use it for underprivileged schools, to host their plays, to come and learn drama, to come and learn to play instruments and everything else associated with the arts and culture space. So Bambanani is an excellent investment. We look forward to your community supporting us. And what we found is that when people are stuck with where to eat, you end up eating in the restaurants that you own shares in. So yeah, that's Bambanani.
Fantastic. And just like your wife's not going to let you sell your first asset you spoke about easily, maybe your son is not going to let you sell the second one so easily, because it is such a great concept. So tell us about the next one.
The third one is a business we incubated. It's called the AltVest Credit Opportunities Fund. And it's very cool in two aspects. The first thing is that private debt or private credit as an investment class or an investment thesis is all the rage across the world. Now, that's sometimes not a good thing. Bubbles emerge. But it is an investment class that is attracting lots and lots of attention, particularly amongst venture capital funds, family offices, and high net worth individuals. The problem is, from a South African perspective, there are many, many wonderful private credit opportunities, but you need a minimum of 500,000 to invest. Now, if you consider that any portfolio you invest in needs to be balanced, and private credit, I would guess the maximum it would need to be is between 5 and 10%. That means your net worth or your net investment portfolio would need to be in excess of 5 million to be able to allocate the minimum so that your portfolio is well balanced. Now, that is inappropriate for South Africans. Those minimums are inappropriate. And one of the issues we set out to solve was to address that. So now, through EasyEquities, you are able to invest in a private credit opportunity for as little as R3.20 a share. Right? You could have one. Because of the EasyEquities construct, your unit cost won't be dramatically different. You can walk around town telling people you also an investor in private credit and read the white papers issued by McKinsey and everyone else. It's an incredible opportunity. The best part of it is that every rand raised within the AltVest Credit Opportunities Fund is used to give loans to SMEs. Now, that's what we do. So we are crowdfunding capital to deploy debt products to SMEs. And again, there are many, many competitors in this space. I won't name them, but for SMEs, there are many opportunities to raise debt. The issue is they sometimes horribly expensive, sometimes horribly robotic, where the first time you speak to a human is when the sheriff comes to collect your car. Our process is different. We offer a structured finance solution to SMEs, which means that the SME gets to spend time with myself and my investment team, and we actually help him solve what the business problems are. So again, the two aspects: number one, solving the problem for SMEs. And a lot of that help is emotional, it's mental, it's coaching, in addition to well-priced debt. One of my favorite things about it is that it's structured with a gender lens. And so women-owned, run, or managed businesses get cheaper rates than their male counterparts, which is really cool. So if you took a barber and a hair salon, sorry to use cliches like that, but it demonstrates, it's a good metaphor. The hair salon, if it was run and owned by women, would have interest rates up to 25% cheaper than the barber shop if it was run and managed by men. It's not exclusionary, so we want to help all SMEs, and the better the SME's behavior, the more we reward him with price reductions in terms of the interest rate. So as a South African, you get two benefits. Number one, you get access to this asset class, which is very, very exclusive. Number two, you have the knowledge of knowing that your investments are helping fellow South Africans with an aim to create employment. And so this is a true impact story. We issue a quarterly impact report where you can actually read about the lives we've touched and how we have changed lives. We issue we issue stats on the number of jobs created and jobs saved, and so it's an incredible opportunity. We've received massive support from institutions, and like I mentioned earlier, we welcome more institutional capital because they provide the wholesale capital that helps us do this. So you can actually invest into this fund in one of two ways, through an equity instrument or through a debt instrument that pays around prime plus 12. The debt instruments are not really geared for the retail market, not because we didn't want them to, but the corporate paper regulations in the country are quite stifling with regulated and legislated minimums, and so we don't have a retail product yet, but let's ring the bell. You guys know how to fractionalize debt, so let's watch that space.
Thanks, Warren. It's I'm pleased that you mentioned the gender lens, because I was going to ask you if my understanding is correct that the executive director here is a woman, Tatum, and so that's another good reason to invest.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only Tatum. The chair of the fund is a female. Our investment committee is mostly female. We are actively looking for a head of credit that we hope to be female, and many of the SMEs that we've supported are female. So it does what it says on the tin. and we are looking to aggressively grow this business, aggressively help South African businesses, and get this economy back on its feet.
Thank you, Warren. So, right, before we take a few questions, it is a great privilege to have you chatting to us, Warren. One of the things that I appreciate most about you and our CEO, Charles, is your willingness to engage with anybody to talk about your business and to sell your story, to tell your story too. And it is a compelling story. So thank you very much for taking the time. I want to deal with one set of questions that we've received, and that's from people who hold your share currently on the Cape Town Stock Exchange, because there's a big overlap between those shareholders and the EasyEquities community we've seen, to say that you will have received, and you will receive if you haven't, communication from AltVest about the process of transferring your shares and how that works. But the summary of that is that once you have an EasyEquities account, it's a simple process of filling in a form, and that form will be coming out, as I say, to you if it hasn't already. It's very easy to fill it in, and simplistically, the day of the listing on the JSE, your current shareholding will reflect in your EasyEquities account with very little effort and input from your side. So current holders of AltVest on the Cape Town Stock Exchange do not need to worry about that. It's a simple form.
Yeah.
EasyEquities users that have not invested in AltVest previously, your opportunity is during this IPO period, which, as we said, opens on Friday morning for a couple of weeks, to invest in one or all of the opportunities that Warren's been talking about, putting down a couple of rand, thousands of rands, millions, true easy style, whatever makes sense to you. Those are your current opportunities. So when I want to talk about some of the other questions we've gotten, and whilst we can't give advice, and one of the things that AltVest also is great about is education, do the research, check it out. So not giving advice, but is it better for a user, an EasyEquities user, to invest into AltVest Capital or into the underlyings, or both? Like, what is the benefit or not?
This really comes down to individual preference, because each of the instruments have different return and risk characteristics. So the Lodge is the least risky of all. It's prime land on a beautiful river in a game park, so there's not much risk there. It won't give good cash flow, though, so it won't be a high dividend yield stock. The other, Bambanani, is, I would say, moderately risky. I think the play there, once you understand what's happening, is it's going to be a play on property, because our model is to own and operate the restaurants and the land on which they operate. So we don't rent premises. We usually buy the land, and the land is split out from the operations. But we think there will be capital growth from the land portfolio perspective, as well as good profit generation from the operations. And so that's different. The Credit Opportunities Fund, which is private credit, offers exceptional returns, and these will mostly be delivered through cash dividends. But our estimations are IRRs of between 24 and 28% for the equity holders, and those will be delivered largely in cash. We, of course, make all the information for you to reach your own conclusions on that, but those are ours. And then AltVest Capital, of course, it enjoys a little bit of each of those revenue items, and is going to continue bringing opportunities like this to the market. I can talk about personally, my portfolio is weighted probably 50% AltVest Capital, 10% Umganu, 10% Bambanani, and then about 20% in the AltVest Credit Opportunities Fund. And most of my staff are balanced in that sort of proportion as well. Certainly, if you were going to create it based on market weighting, that's sort of the that's sort of the weights you would get. The biggest AltVest Capital, then AltVest Credit Opportunities, then Mngani, then Bambanani. But we're also going to be bringing almost every 2 months brand new opportunities to the market. So you'll want to save your cash to keep participating in those. Yeah, so not advice, but that's sort of the way I would look at it. I think it's good to have a little bit of all of them. If you had to pick just one and you were forced, then AltVest Capital or the ordinary share, because you do get indirect exposure to everything underneath it as well.
Thank you. Isaac's asking around the issue price of the respective options, and the best way to do that is to go to the AltVest website. You can also go to campaigns.easyequities.coza/AltVest. So campaigns.easyequities.coza/AltVest, or the AltVest website. Prospectus is there, and you'll have all the details of how many shares, the price, a summary of what Warren's spoken about, as well as more detail on all of those. And I would suggest that that's where you check it out, Isaac. And we have a little bit of time during this IPO period. But don't snooze. If you're keen to invest, then check it out sooner rather than later. Nao has asked, before I ask you a question, Warren, Nao has asked what other properties come with investing in AltVest, and I'd like to give a stab at answering that, because I think, from my perspective, one of the big ones, apart from the obvious potential economic benefits that you've articulated, is the ability to contribute in the way that you've spoken about, growing businesses, enabling these businesses to be employers in our community, uplifting South Africa. So for me, one of the best privileges of an EasyEquities retail investor is that we can improve this country, and that we do improve this country through our investment behavior. You've mentioned the free nights if you invest at a certain level. And now check out the AltVest socials. They're constantly sharing opportunities there. I know that AltVest is also going to be made available for those people transferring their shares currently to spend some time with Warren and Charles, which is also going to be exciting to get some of their input on investment opportunities. But yeah, so Warren, what else are you involved in? Let's take a break from AltVest for a second. Can you even think beyond AltVest? You've been working so hard with your team on getting this listing done. What else is happening in the world of Warren Wheatley?
All right. So for those who don't know me, one of my other, so I'm very passionate about investments, and in particular helping investors. So that manifests itself in creating companies like AltVest, but I also serve as a trustee on very large pension funds, Telkom, the retirement fund, and the Transnet retirement fund. And my job there is I'm the chair of the investment committee, and that helps me direct the investment strategy on funds that impact the lives of hundreds of thousands of members and pensioners, right? So what's pretty cool is I sometimes have to go on road trips to investigate, and I'm off to China next week to investigate what's happening there, what investment opportunities are available, and if those and so both of those funds have large investments in China. I would need to come back with some recommendations as to buy, hold, or sell, and probably get to eat some Chinese food and other cool stuff during that time.
Warren, tell us about Two-Pot. You've given me such a good opportunity to ask you about Two-Pot. Good thing, bad thing, people should be cashing in, they're saving. What are your views?
I think you should categorically not cash in your savings, though I am a realist. What was horrifying for me to see was the extent of the demand, which shows me, and I can sit on my pedestal and criticize Two-Pot, but the fact is that it was desperately needed by the country. People needed that cash. People needed to trade out of expensive debt. People needed to just get some breathing space, I guess. You know, the fact that almost every single administrator experienced some kind of shutdown because of demand talks to just how devastated we are economically as a society and as a country, which talks to how important your investments into these instruments are. You know, if you buy a Sasol share, for example, if you go into your account and buy a Sasol share today, 4 or 5 companies make money, brokers, people who move the share from one account to the other, but there's no actual real impact in the economy. I could almost guarantee you that for every 200,000 you invest in AltVest, I will create a job with it, right? If you invest 200,000 in Sasol, I don't know what happens. Nothing really. You give a broker an excuse to go have a beer that afternoon, kind of thing. You know, that's it. This is real impact. You can make a meaningful change. And what we found out, and what I've always believed in, you don't need to compromise on investment returns in order to do so. Making an impact and earning great investment returns are not mutually exclusive concepts, and you never ever have to make that trade-off if they're structured correctly.
Yeah, that's one of the things I am passionate about in this country and believe strongly, Warren. It's a place that you can make a difference. It's a place that you can make money. And it's one of the few places in the world where you can do both. So it's a great opportunity. So we're going to wrap up there. Again, Warren, thank you very much. On behalf of the EasyEquities community, a very big thank you to you and the AltVest team for allowing us the privilege of being your exclusive partner in this IPO. We'll certainly be sharing this webinar and all the information with our community to help them make up their minds if this is a good investment. Lots of comments for people saying thank you and that they're definitely going to be investing. The practicalities again for the EasyEquities community. From Friday morning this week, we will have the information on all 4 of the opportunities that Warren spoke about will be on our site under new listings. All 4 of them are there for your consideration. The prospectus is there. Lots of information and education on AltVest's site and social media as well. We have a couple of weeks to put on our money. The listing will then happen. And yeah, and Warren, I think what you're also helping to do here is just reminded there's this narrative that gets pushed and then festers into fact that there is a dying JSE. There's no listings. Now, that might be true on an equity space, but there are loads of active ETFs and other instruments listing, and there's AltVest listing. And so I think there's lots of opportunity, both Cape Town Stock Exchange, Joburg Stock Exchange, and beyond for investors to look where they do their money. So massive thanks to you and the team, and I'm going to give you the final word. And then we're going to check out your prospectus as soon as it's live.
Right. So quickly on that, the prospectus is live right now, as well as all the information memos. They're all on AltVest's website. If you're struggling to find them, email us at info@altvestcapital.co.za. And if they are difficult to find, please let me know so I can fix that. The second thing I just wanted to address, a lot of people are asking why are we moving from the Cape Town Stock Exchange to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange? The major reason is it's just a numbers game. You know, Johannesburg, if I want to do what I want to do with regards to making and democratizing investments, I need the crowds afforded by the JSE. Now, the Cape Town Stock Exchange is still growing. It only has a few thousand retail investors. EasyEquities on their own, Carl, you can help me here, but you've got over 2 million customers that we could potentially have a conversation with. And as a fiduciary of AltVest Capital and the fact that we do manage people's money, I do need to do what's in the best interest of the shareholders and the stakeholders. And for me to execute on my vision, I need the millions and millions of you to invest, which gives us the capital to then go and create jobs, support businesses, et cetera, et cetera. The Cape Town Stock Exchange is still a great exchange. Our debt products are still listed there. We intend working with them a lot going into the future. But I need the EasyEquities crowd, I need the JSE numbers, and I need the JSE liquidity to make this particular dream come true. Carl, thank to you and the team. It's been an excellent journey. Your team's been exceptional. Thank you to the EasyEquities community. We look forward to embracing you. We look forward to being with you, and we look forward to having you participate in our journey.
Thanks, Warren. There are a couple of questions that we didn't get to and some that are being added now. We'll make sure that all of those are answered on our respective social medias and blogs. So please follow AltVest if you're not, EasyEquities. Check all of that out. And I'm going to put Warren on the spot because I know I can, because this is also something that I think clever Charles Savage, our CEO, and clever Warren Wheatley share. They are so passionate that sometimes they are way too bloody serious when they are talking to us. And so on the 14th of October, when you are going to be on the stock exchange, Warren, I'm sure that you and Charles will be very happy if we, your respective teams, organize a little get-together for all the EasyEquities people that have invested in AltVest on the day, and that we get together for a couple of drinks on that day. So thanks to you and Charles for offering to buy us drinks on that day. Watch our socials. If you've invested in AltVest via EasyEquities, 14th of October, we'll get together and you'll see that Charles and Warren can smile and are actually nice, not only clever.
Right. Let me put an offer out there. If you research me, you'll see I'm friends with a number of DJs. Let me host drinks that afternoon and see which of my DJ friends can come and play. Only shareholders will be invited, though.
Sounds good to me. So thanks very much, Warren. Good luck to you and your team. And thanks, EasyEquities community. Look forward to lots more engagement with you. Have a good rest of the afternoon. Cheers, everybody.